Hey everyone, and welcome back to Reading Crossbow. I'm Lana, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Rob.
Hey, Lana, and hello to everyone else. And I am very excited for this week. I have been waiting for this week all year long.
I'm so excited because I'm I'm so excited because I think this is going to be the month where like we actually both like the books, and I hate to call it early because we could be totally wrong. Like my book could be a total dud because I don't think it's going to be your book. Like I feel like your book's going to be amazing. Well, I know you'll talk about it, but like, is this the month where it all comes together?
Hopefully, I'm looking forward to what we have this month. So to just kind of give everyone an idea, we each choose a book each month, and we're going to review them. I'm going to do a midpoint review on Lena's book. She's going to do a midpoint review on my book. And after that, we'll each come together and we'll review both books together and just give you an idea of how we feel about these books and see if maybe this is a book for you as well.
Yeah, and we don't often agree. So, yeah, if you're new here, Rob tends to like the grim dark, more of the sci-fi, and I tend to like pretty much all fantasy, especially romantasy. But I delve into sci-fi too. So, excited about this month's picks. Why don't you kick us off and tell us about your pick?
My pick this month is The Mercy of Gods by James S.A. Corey. So, if you had watched our very first episode, this was actually one of the only books that we had discussed that we both liked was The Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. We both were huge fans of the books. I didn't really watch the show much. I think you did. But we both followed that series from its beginning to end independently, not even aware that we were both reading these books. And so this is the start of a new series. And I couldn't be more excited. I've been excited ever since this was announced. And that's why I was like, I'm more excited for this week than the rest of the year because this was a book I've been excited and waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should say, I actually didn't finish The Expanse yet in terms of the books. I made it to 5. And that's because I tend to get a bit seriesed out, like after like 5 or 6 anyway. Like I definitely don't like series with like 10 books most of the time. Like too much. And it's very Space Cowboy, you know? And
Yeah.
it's just like I needed a break from Space Cowboy. So I'm actually, I've been feeling like I was ready to jump back in and just finish. I think there's 7 or 8 in The Expanse. I can't remember, but
Yeah.
finish them up. And then you bring this to me. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to get my Space Cowboy back.
Yep. And this is a very different kind of book, at least just going off of what's inside the jacket cover. This is a very almost traditional sounding space opera. There is a whole bunch of aliens. There is a galaxy spanning empire. And humans are just a small, like, member species in this kind of aggressive galaxy spanning empire.
Well, I'm here for it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, as long as the characters are anything like they've done in the past, or like, I mean, obviously it's not going to be like that they've done in the past. I mean, and actually, we should bring up. I keep saying they because it's 2 writers.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if it's anything like they've done before, then yeah, absolutely. Like I was all in, and beautiful worlds, like beautiful, incredible settings. Like we talk about setting a lot on this show, and I'm never as invested as you are into the setting. But with this author, I absolutely am. Very good. Top notch.
Yeah. Now, what did you actually really like when you read The Expanse? What was your favorite element of those stories?
I mean, I liked Firefly quite a bit, and that only lasted 1 season. So, I mean, I hope that's not a bit of a stretch, but like, it only had 1 season on the show, and I really liked it. I liked that it, hit kind of or scratched sort of the Star Wars itch in a way of like it's in space and we get this really cool drama between the characters, and Firefly did that for me, and I just really haven't touched it since. And The Expanse was something I got into, in terms of sci-fi after having read a lot of fantasy. So I think maybe I just picked up one of the best authors I could to start
Yeah.
sci-fi reading. It's so good. And I forget the name of the character that's kind of like the ballsy shit talker, like mechanic on the ship. You might remember the name. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But like the characters are so well developed that I had a really fun time reading them. And I also don't tend to read a lot of male authors because a lot of the books I read, this is the romantic fantasy, tend to be female authors. So
Yeah.
getting things from a male's perspective too was also really nice. But I just incredible setting, very good world building. I mean, in the books, for as far as I've gotten, you go to different planets. You're back to Earth sometimes, and every time these authors take you somewhere, I was immersed each time. Like nothing pulled me out of the book too, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I love these books. I felt like the plots, even when you as the reader screaming like, "Why would you do that?" It actually is perfectly explained in the book. Like, people are stupid and they're going to make terrible short-term decisions. In the books, these corporations, they're playing with this proto-molecule, especially in the early books. And you're like, why would you keep playing with this? This seems like a really stupid plan. But each time it's, well, I mean, money's going to be made. We might as well be the one to make it. If we can figure out how to use it, that kind of stuff. And I love the realism to that setting. But I most really just like the characters. There's three specific characters that kind of highlight what I like about this series. And it's Amos. He's the mechanic character. There's James Holden. He's the captain character. And then there's another character named Christian Avasarala. And she is the like undersecretary for the UN. And each one of these characters has a very, very different worldview, but they all think they're doing the right thing. And the whole time and even when they're doing the right thing, the other character's like, God damn it, Holden, stop, stop telling the world everything, and it's that there's almost a righteousness, but it's because they genuinely believe they're doing the right thing. This is the way to do it. But even Amos, he has a very different sense of what's right and wrong. He doesn't feel emotions like other people do as a product of his upbringing, but like he's always kind of asking himself, like, what would Holden do? Or what would Naomi do? Like, he kind of reality checks using other characters' morality, at least what he perceives to be their morality. But each of these characters, they're doing their own version of the right thing in this wild, kind of crazy universe they live in. And I just love that about these characters.
Oh yeah, and when flawed is beautiful, because you talk about flawed characters a lot, and they do make mistakes, but it just feels so purposeful, and it doesn't feel like I'm just trying to write a broody character. Like,
yeah.
I love it. Yeah. And another thing I should point out, just in case we have a lot of people who love fantasy on the show, we've mostly covered fantasy. We haven't delved that much into sci-fi since Some Desperate Glory. And I should say that, like, if you haven't dove into sci-fi, this is a great author to do it on, because being like, I'm not an engineer. I don't understand space stuff like Rob does. I got confused in like the Warhammer book in some moments, and I got confused in Some Desperate Glory when like she was like using jet propulsion engines to sort of fly and propel herself and jump, and the way it was described, my brain jumbled. And I feel like even though this author gets quite technical, and I don't know this book, I only know The Expanse, but like it never felt like I couldn't understand it. And yeah, sometimes they're like, oh yeah, the jet propulsion tank made blah 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 blah, and now this door's blown off to whatever. I don't know, that's not right. But the point is, it's said in a way where I don't have to understand the big words and I still get it. And and I know I'm not stupid, but sometimes in sci-fi books I can feel stupid and it doesn't happen.
Yeah. And there's always that kind of fine line between sometimes you don't understand it because it's just technobabble. It's nonsense with using big words just to make it sound like there's something technical happening. And that happens in a lot of books. And at least in the case of like The Expanse, I think everything was well understandable. Like, and even when it might be a real world physics type thing, when they talk about going ballistic or the way that they have to flip their ships, during flight and that kind of stuff, it really, the authors do a great job of describing that in a way that's very understandable. And even like when they get to alien worlds and they have like these like flesh eating slugs and stuff on these alien worlds, it's like, you could totally understand like what was happening.
Yeah, and there's some spicy stuff. I don't know if this book's going to have spicy stuff, but there's a bit of spice. And actually, it was in the shows too. Like, interesting, because how does that work in space when they have like the gravity turned on versus off? And there's a funny situation that happens in the story because of that. So I'm looking forward to maybe a little spice too, but I don't think you've told me what this one's about yet.
So apparently, there is a galactic empire, and this is run by an alien race. Although it sounds like it's actually a mix of multiple races, maybe like the Covenant and Halo. The humans have, it says inside the cover, like the humans now reside on a world called Anjin. And they don't even know how they got there. It just was so long ago they were dropped off on this world by the Empire. And they're now just a member species, a lower level member species of this greater empire. And it sounds like the story is the Empire's maybe running up against something that might be even tougher than them. And so they start leaning back on the races that they control, such as the humans, and they're going to try to have the humans solve their problem. Now, the humans, on the other hand, might see this as an opportunity to maybe buy themselves some freedom. It's hard to say. This is just what's on the jacket cover. I really don't want to spoil myself too much on this one. So that's what I got.
All right. Well, looking forward to it. Very much so. Good month. I know it. Good month.
So I did find the name of that planet to be very interesting. It's called Anjin. And just this summer, I watched the renewed version of Shogun that came out on FX. And Anjin is... that specific word is used very heavily in the show because that's the name of a ship's pilot. And so maybe the humans just crashed here, or, somehow this is a pilot related thing. But that's wild speculation because
I love Rob's speculation, and I haven't seen that, so not spoiling anything for me. But yeah, sounds cool.
Okay, so what do you have for us?
All right, so I'm nervous it's not going to live up to your book. But what if James S.A. Corey doesn't live up to James S.A. Corey? I have no idea. But I'm still interested in like the kind of the cool factor that my book brings this month. So we are epic fantasy. Or we're supposed to be epic fantasy. Because we've had books before that said they're epic fantasy. And we're kind of So this says it's epic fantasy.
Okay. Good start.
And good start. There's dragons. There's warriors, there's magic. It's apparently a very smart political drama as well. So lots of, kings, queens, kingdoms kind of thing. So that's kind of a lot of the elements to it, but sort of starting at the beginning and sort of just what I took from the jacket. And I did a tiny bit of reading online because Taran Matharu is a published author that's sold really well. I haven't read his other series, but he's written other series before, a very successful author. He is the author of the Summoner series and then another series. And this is also going to be a series, and it is the Soulbound saga. So successful author, and that always makes me feel a little bit better about my choice. But our main character, well, sometimes our main character starts out as a hostage in this kingdom. So he's like in a castle and he's a hostage because his father led a rebellion, I guess, against this nation. So doesn't really talk much about it. We just know that he's like a political hostage. And then the king of this region he's in has a son, and it's his heir. And that son has a political marriage and advantage where he marries into a princess from another kingdom for whatever reasons politically. Well, somehow we know that the hostage, the main character, is going to escape. That's on the jacket cover. Escapes and takes with them the handmaiden of the princess that is marrying the heir, okay? And so they escape through the castle, all right? But on the way out, guess what they find? A dragon egg.
Really?
Yeah?
Just laying around?
I don't know. I hope it's more complicated than that. But I do know from reading, like, this is the very basics, that we have a hostage, leads to this weird political situation. His dad led a rebellion, leaving. He takes his own sort of hostage. Maybe that's for reasons I don't know why, by taking the handmaiden, right? They get a dragon egg along the way. And then guess what else I know from, like, just reading the author's webpage synopsis?
And what would that be?
He soul binds to the dragon egg.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Okay.
so you called the series The Soulbound, so
Yeah.
name checks out.
Okay. So that's all I really know. I did dig a little bit further, and apparently this has become, or is starting to get talked about, as a magic system that people are really loving. So I don't know that it's up there with, like, your Brandon Sanderson, Cosmere type magic, but I've been told the magic system is really cool, and it has to do with humans that can bind with dragons. So you have to be soulbound to a dragon, and then once that happens, then you can actually practice magic. And then the magic is very similar to what we use. We play, World of Warcraft and other games. It's like a mana system, and so I'm excited. I've been told this magic system is really cool.
It sounds a lot like Fourth Wing, as far as like how the magic works.
So that's another thing. I guess this book went all over TikTok because people are comparing it to Fourth Wing. How can you not? Because it's a dragon rider, and Fourth Wing was all about dragon riders. But whereas Fourth Wing, and I might be a little disappointed in this book, had a lot of the spicy elements and was way more YA, this really doesn't have that. I'm told it's a big slow burn. It's way more about the magic system, and it is very much more a political drama. So set in an epic fantasy setting. So people said that what they hated about Fourth Wing was, like, the writing being too juvenile, maybe not every idea being fully fleshed out. It felt very young to read. This author is a very, like, colorful writer, lots of flavor, and writes kind of like how you and I like to read authors, which is, like, very descriptive. So for people who loved Fourth Wing but had issues with parts of it, the TikTok world is saying this is the book for you because it's written very, very well. That's what they say.
All of that
I'm
sounds
excited.
awesome.
All of that sounds awesome. But TikTokers are saying that if you love the spicy elements of Fourth Wing, you're just not going to get it here. Which, you know what? I'm okay with that. Because last month, I had That Witch series, and it had one good spicy scene. And then your book, surprisingly had a very nice spicy scene. So we had a twofer.
Yeah, we did. And so is that going to give you the space to breathe and not have another spicy scene this month?
I mean, James S.A. Corey has a tendency to write some of it into his story, so their story. So maybe. I just feel like if it's going to come from any book this month, it's probably coming from yours again.
The irony.
Yeah, I know. So, but I think we did pick two good books. Epic space opera and epic fantasy. And both of them are not too long either. So we should point that out, because sometimes in 1 month we'll get some big honkin' books, like when we had the Priory of the Orange Tree. I didn't look at the page count on this, but it's significantly thinner than most of the other Corey books that I read, which, and then this book's not too big either. So I think we have, like, good content for, like, less page count, which I'm all about too.
No, that sounds terrific. I think this might be, as you predicted, a very fruitful month as far as for it has all the ingredients for books that we both should like.
Which also means we can totally screw it up on another month and, like, no caution, close our eyes, pick off the bookshelf, right? Next month.
Some more blind picks next month.
Yeah, might as well. But anyway, if you guys have stayed to watching till the end, thank you so much. We are, well, at the time of recording this episode, which we record them a little bit in advance, almost to 150 subscribers, which for us is a big deal.
That's very cool. I'm very excited to see how well we've been doing lately.
Yeah, so join us, join the Discard. We've had a couple new members this month, and we've been talking about the new book picks, especially a lot more conversation on Serpent and Dove and Nivola recently. So we'd love to have you read with us. You get 5 weeks to read 2 books, plenty of time. So please like and subscribe below. Stay tuned and join us next week as Rob gives his halfway review on my pick, Dragon Rider.
All right. Until then, have a good week.